almost daily Zencast. Hosted by the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Let's talk Trump.
Greetings, friends. It is I. We are back. It is Monday, April 6th, day 2,099,100 of the COVID-19 global shutdown quarantine, which of course is a joke. I have no idea how long it's actually been because I don't do that sort of minutia tracking, but we're certainly getting into the thick of it, aren't we? First things first, a little bit of news from over there across the pond. The British Trump, good old Boris Johnson, fellow climate denier, COVID denier, has just in the last 48 hours announced that he's COVID-19 positive, that he's been hospitalized, and the most recent headlines I see indicate that he is now in an intensive care unit. Apparently his fiancée is also self-quarantining and in bad shape, according to the media. Interesting turn of events, right? I don't wish any ill on anyone ever. But the political, the political satire mind in me, the satirist, the part of me that wishes I worked at Saturday Night Live, hint, hint, Saturday Night Live, I think I'd be great in that environment because I'm very collaborative and I'm funnier with other people. I'm one, not to go on a tangent, but I'm sort of like the self-deprecating butt of all jokes. That's my comedy gold, which doesn't come out when I'm just sitting here talking to myself so much, but when there's other people around. Whew. Anyways, I digress. So the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom both quite openly downplayed and or borderline denied that this thing was a thing. And I know that there's been a lot of revisionist rewriting of what he said, but straight up, I watched the news conference in which Donald Trump said the virus was a hoax. He then also said, I think within the same press conference, that the left-wing media was using this hoax against him. But his initial statement was that the virus itself was a hoax. He's like backpedaled and pretzeled himself into making it sound as if what he was saying was that the media and their hype of it was hoaxy. And I know that he got one journalist somewhere to retract a statement, and I don't know the details of that, and I wish I did, but I haven't had time to go track that down. Because the Trump base is totally using that now. It's like, oh, well, that person who said that, blah, blah, apologized and da-da-da-da. I think, I'm speculating here, I think the problem there was that a journalist went a little bit too far and maybe referenced some of his latter statements. But I know there's been so many things, by the way. This is just one of many, and I really wish I was more fastidious. I know I'm a Capricorn, but I'm not as super hyper anally detail-oriented as I could, should, would be. I would love to have a solid, verified, confirmable list of the things that Trump literally said and then denied to the faces of the people who were asking him about it, despite the fact that there's video evidence that he said it. But one of the dumbest ones was that he straight up, back in the day, denied the audio tape where he is quite obviously, literally saying that because of his celebrity status, he could sexually molest women. Now, he didn't use the term sexually molest women. He said, I can kiss them and grab them by the pussy. to paraphrase. But he said it. He really did say it. It's really him. And the guy who released that audio tape asserts that it is him. Now, caveat, paranoia-inducing thought. Deep fake is real. There's deep fake video and deep fake audio. So there's that. But I feel confident based on my understanding and my, seeing this on TV, that the COVID-19 thing is, he said it. He said it's a hoax. I saw him say it was a hoax, and I guffawed audibly about it. Boris Johnson, I don't watch him as closely, but I know that he repeatedly said something along the lines of, it's no big deal, I'm going to keep shaking people's hands anyways, when we were first sort of stumbling our way into social distancing. He's reported as having said that multiple times. Again, I'm not a journalist, so I'm not making accusations, and I'm not trying to put words in people's mouths. I'm sharing with you my real-life, authentic, genuine recollections of things as I witness them, vis-a-vis various media outlets. So, like I was saying, I would never wish it upon anyone, this or any other disease. But when Trump was downplaying, when he was doing the whole, it'll be fine, it'll go away like a miracle in early April, he literally said that. I watched him say it on a live broadcast. Now he's denying it, and he's saying that that's not how he said it, and that's not how he meant it, that he was saying other things. And yes, I also see that he was genuinely trying to be a source of uplifting statements. He was trying to be positive. One of the biggest critiques that he's been critiqued, that have been levied at him from the earliest days of his presidency, is that he's really negative and he doesn't know how to unite and he doesn't know how to inspire. So I think sometimes he actually authentically tries to answer that. And then proceeds to, two-face clusterfuck himself into a position where it just doesn't matter that he tries to do that. But I wanted to just point out and let anybody listening know that maybe didn't realize or hadn't heard yet, that, coronavirus deniers are getting sick with coronavirus. Interesting turn of events. And now, let us get to the main thrust of today's episode. Oh, actually, as a transition, because I just before coming on the air, I just to check to see if I was missing anything big. I flipped on, some cable news channels, flipped through them, and I heard President Trump calling something fake. I didn't really catch what, because I was flipping, and I just sort of sat on that channel for 30 seconds and then hit flip. It was not a live broadcast. It was they were replaying something from one of his very recent, super more often and more daily than my own show, a press conference about COVID-19. And he was calling some media outlet fake news, I believe. And I just laughed out loud. Setting aside all the dark and depressing things going on right now, you got to admit that it's fucking ridiculous and kind of funny whenever this fake-ass president calls anything fake. And don't get me wrong, I am not saying that there is no such thing as fake news. There absolutely is. We totally have a postmodern, technologically driven fake news problem. But let's put a pin in that. Come back to it later. But wow, is Donald Trump the wrong guy to be taken as authority about what is and is not fake news? He has no credibility on calling this shit out, in my humble opinion. Why? Because of how fucking fake he is himself. His hair is fake. His orange tan is fake. His status as a Republican is fake as fuck, in my opinion. Everyone loves to just ignore the fact that he was a registered Democrat and a really, 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 really close friend of the family of the Clintons. One of the first things I talked about when he announced his status as a billionaire is fake. He's not a billionaire. He is not a billionaire. And, you know, he goes way out of his way to make sure that it's really hard to see his tax information where we could confirm that he is not a billionaire. But he loves to lead his base on, let them believe that he is in fact a billionaire. His patriotism is fake. Now he'll use that word. He'll throw that word around like a crazy motherfucker. But how many times has he been caught on live television during a public event with the national anthem playing and his hand is not over his heart? He did it at multiple debates. He did it at his own effing John Deere parade that got rained on. He did it at an Easter ceremony. That's my favorite one. That's the one where I think, if memory serves, him, Ivanka, Melania, and young Baron von Munchausen Trump. I can't not put that in there, even though he's not Baron von Munchausen in any way, shape, or form. But I digress. Baron Trump. I mean, who names their kid Baron? That's a title. That's not a name. That's a title of a landowner. Anyways, they were all standing around at one of the balconies at the White House at the beginning, I believe, at the opening ceremonies of, if memory serves, the official White House Easter egg hunt. And the national anthem was playing, and Melania literally had to fucking elbow him to get him to put his hand over the heart. And that's when I saw that, I went and captured as many images of him not putting his hand over his heart during a national anthem while everyone else in the picture totally has their hand over their heart, and asked the question, does he really love America though? I don't know how many patriots can fail to put their hands over their heart that many fucking times in that short a period of time. Because all of that happened in the first year. So to every time Donald Trump has called something fake, I have just laughed out loud. Totally and absolutely LOL'd. But I digress. This fake president has been very, very lucky so far in that he has, hung out with COVID-19 positive folks and not gotten sick. And that's magical. And there's something there to it. But that is not evidence that he's the Messiah. If he were the Messiah, as so many of his base increasingly want to believe, he would be healing us all right now. There would be no COVID-19 ever again. It'd be done. It would have all gotten fixed up around Christmas. But it wasn't. So if you know anybody that is peddling the Trump is Messiah nonsense, ask them that question. Oh, really? If Trump is the Messiah, how come he didn't magically heal everyone on the planet of COVID-19 at Christmas? That would have been a very Messiah thing to do, I think, right? The Messiah was a healer. The Messiah will be a healer. Jesus healed people. Jesus healed lepers. That was their big epidemic at the time. There was leprosy raging like crazy. And he healed lepers. He didn't order them to shelter in place at home. So I'm sure it's about to happen that, just like with Boris Johnson over in the UK, somebody undeniably huge and totally in the public eye and on Team Trump is going to totally get COVID. I'm not trying to wish it on them. I'm not trying to, manifest it. I'm just identifying it as an inevitable, probable outcome. And when that happens, I think the Trump base is finally going to have to confront some things, right? Because first of all, I got to ask the Trump base some really simple questions. And I just posted this on Facebook. So if you got an opinion on this, head on over to facebook.com/Mr. Zeppo and add your thoughts to, I think it's the newest post on the page. And let me actually, instead of I should have brought this up before going on the air, and I totally didn't, because I thought I had this over here in my other little notepad thing, and I don't. But, vamping as we go to Facebook. Oh, hello, Facebook. Let's take a moment for memories from Facebook. Since this is my own content, right? I can totally read this without getting sued. A year ago today, Facebook reminds me, I posted the following meme. Ideological echo chambers are tearing us apart. And the text under that is, divide and cause conflict. That is the agenda. All ideology is complicit in that agenda. Isn't that bizarre to suggest that perhaps the only viable solution to the world's problems just might be abandoning all ideologies and focusing on the simple truth of reality? Seeing reality clearly and on all the levels that we currently don't. That just might be the solution to all the seemingly unsolvable problems we have created for ourselves through this self-obsession or self-oppression that we impose on ourselves using the ideologies we invent. Why can't we just give that a try? Fighting and arguing and killing each other. We've been trying that for 5,000 years, and just look at the mess it's gotten us into. 5,000 years worth of bullshitting each other about ideas that claim to be the absolute truth, instead of just focusing on reality as it actually is. And look at where we are now. Why not try something different? Something that just might actually create healing and unity. It's from a year ago. I also edited it just then as I read it because there were some bits there that didn't quite make sense because I must have written it really fast. And or autocorrect loves to fuck with my shit. But where am I going? I'm going to my... Oh yeah, here we go. Here's a very serious question for all Trump supporters. If the New World Order controls FEMA and the CDC and the WHO, and if the New World Order is using them in an evil plan to kill us all, and if Trump is actually, quote, fighting the NWO, why the actual fuck is he totally collaborating with, praising, and bending over backwards to implement and enforce the CDC, the WHO, and FEMA during this pandemic emergency? Honest question. Can't get a clear answer on it, other than some convoluted mental gymnastics, self-rationalizing argument that by teaming up with them, he's somehow secretly fighting them. And, someone's already commenting on it. It's my good old friend who is a big, huge Q believer, who says he's already answered that question. And I replied to him about how his answer sounds like cognitive dissonance and mental gymnastics to make his theories continue to hold, quote, truth. But his retort is that I'm being predictable and blaming it on the POTUS like my CIA propaganda tells me to. And that's interesting because all I did was ask why. I'm going to write back, what have I blamed him for? Hold on a second. Let me finish. I'll edit this out so that in post so that it isn't such a long me just typing. He says I'm blaming him according to my CIA propaganda conditioning. And I wrote back, what am I blaming him for? All I did just now was ask why. Why is he telling his anti-vaxxer base to get vaccines? Why is he telling his small government base to submit to big government telling us to lock ourselves in our homes? Why is he doing things that his base would have freaked out at Obama for doing? Why is his base blindly following orders that they would totally reject if anyone else has suggested for them? I look forward to seeing his response to that. But yeah, I'm not gonna sit around and wait for him. Boom. I also recently, just now today, replaced my Facebook, whatchamahoozle, what is it called? Cover photo. And put up the very first meme I made immediately after Trump announced he was running for office. And I only point out the historic point of inception of it so that no one thinks I'm just now coming to this conclusion. It's based on the Batman smacking a Robin template, which I love. I found a really great version of that image that was super bright and vivid and in great shape and didn't look all fucked up. So Robin is saying, only Trump can stand up to the New World Order. Batman's bitch smacking him and saying, he is the New World Order. That was my opinion of him from day one, folks, lest anyone be confused. So, let's let's come back to this notion of, at the center of the title here. Setting aside Trump's bizarre, confusing, and self-contradictory actions, and setting aside the fact that the media is, as media is wont to do, hyping this more than it really needs to, because sensationalism sells, right? It's why we have sexy, nearly naked models eating hamburgers in Carl's Jr. commercials, although those are so not this year. Those are so like from 5 years ago. But, you remember those? It's because sexy naked, sexy models in skimpy clothes sells food. Or cars. Or whatever the fuck you have them standing next to. Sensationalism, alarmism sells news. We get that. That's built into the system. That is, or is not, evidence of a nefarious corruption of the media. I've already gone on a big tangent about where I think things really stand with the national media. And if you want to find that, I wish I had the title at the tip of my tongue of which episode that was, but it's in there somewhere. And I'm sure I'll come full circle and talk about it in a future episode. But essentially, I don't think that it's as bad as the conspiracy theories would want you to believe. And it is also not as innocent as the statists would want you to believe. Human endeavors are never absolute in their nature. Contemplate that. But zooming back out, setting aside everything, let's talk about what's going on in the conspiracy theory field regarding COVID-19. Now, I'm not pretending to be a medical expert, so please don't get all offended at me. I'm also not pretending to be a conspiracy theorist. For those of you who are not aware, I have observed dispassionately, impartially, without judgment, the conspiracy theory community as a sort of hobby for the last 30 years. It isn't my primary focus. It's something that I just kind of passively do. No, I don't have ready-to-go citations, but I do stand by my conclusions that I've come to about the conspiracy theory community. Now let's zoom out. The conspiracy theory community is a group of human beings who join together under a label because they believe that they have some beliefs in common. What does that sound like to you when you just take the word conspiracy theory out of it? A group of people who gather to engage in the mutual believing of in a set of beliefs. That sounds like organized religion. The conspiracy theory community, in my humble opinion, is as hijacked as any organized religion, as any political party, as any government institution is in our postmodern society. I think. I could be wrong. And I'm not out to insult or put down anyone who is a member of the conspiracy theory community, just as much as I am not out to belittle or insult any individual member of an organized religion or a political party or a government institution. Human beings are human beings. Ideologies are ideologies. And what we do when we gather in groups and create labels is then build ideology that explains the labels. Now, the following critique applies to any theme that the conspiracy theory community has fixated on. But it happens to be explosively self-evident right now, during this pandemic, about two particular subjects. The virus that we confusingly call either coronavirus, which is totally incorrect, technically speaking, from a scientific point of view, because there are many coronaviruses, right? SARS is a coronavirus, for example, if I remember correctly. I'm not a medical expert, not pretending to be one, just passing along to the best of my ability what I've observed. Or COVID-19, right? We call it COVID-19, which is a new name, which apparently I just saw today for the first time. Some people are saying that the acronym COVID represents something about how it's of Chinese origin. And I don't understand. I don't remember how that broke down according to the letters, but that's just an attempt to insinuate and infiltrate all that stuff with anti-Chinese racism, obviously. But here's what I've got to say about the entirety of conspiracy theory as an ideological phenomena, not as a group of people trying to figure out what's really going on. Because I think there are, and more accurately were, earnest and sincere human beings actually trying to figure out what's going on. Nowadays, and I say this with love and respect to the individuals, nowadays I feel like most of the community is just people regurgitating that which has been peddled to them or spoon-fed to them. They all talk about and pat themselves on the back about doing quote-unquote research, but I've said this before and I'll say it again, looking shit up on Google is not, categorically, not research. Speaking to eyewitnesses, gathering actual evidence, compiling it all and doing a serious analysis, that's research. Typing in a couple of keywords and then reading somebody else's documentation that claims to be research and then assuming that they must have done the research and assuming that they must be right and then peddling that material, reposting that material, that is not research, friends. So I ask you, whether you are a member of the conspiracy theory community or not, I ask you, have you noticed just how many different and competing conspiracy theories have been pumped out since January about both coronavirus, COVID-19, and 5G? Especially the weird nexus overlap. 5G causes coronavirus. Crazy. Now, pause. I'm not defending 5G. I'm not pretending that it's pure and clean and free of harm. There are people out there posting, scientific articles that claim that, and I don't know. I'm not pretending to be a scientific authority. And in my personal opinion, I think 99.9% of everything in our postmodern society as we have designed it and implemented it is toxic to some degree or another. So 5G is toxic. But is it causing coronavirus? Not likely. I'm going to debunk that right now with the following two statements. The Super Bowl and the city it was in this past time around should have been the earliest nexus hotspot of COVID-19 if 5G caused COVID-19 in the United States, because that stadium was drenched in 5G. Also, why does Iran, a country without any 5G, according to the reporting that I'm aware of, why does Iran have such a huge, nasty COVID-19 problem if there's no 5G there? Okay. Does the entire confluence of our technologically toxic society make our immune system more fragile, more incapable of defending itself? Yes, absolutely. But here's my point. Each of those conspiracy theories about either of these two subjects each individually claim that they contain the absolute truth about said subjects, and that everybody else is wrong. What does that remind you of? Categorically speaking, like statistically speaking, that statement cannot be true, because every single one of them has that kind of statement embedded in them. That's what gets people all worked up and rabid about them and arguing about it on the internet. Personally, to me, that sounds like really strong evidence for an engineered echo chamber psychological manipulation campaign. Full stop. The fact that there are that many conspiracy theories, not one or two, that maybe have a little bit of overlap and maybe have a little bit of divergence, but almost 30 in just barely 3 months' time, that sounds like an engineered program of muddying the waters, of causing confusion and division. I find it really bizarre that many conspiracy theories have emerged and that they all claim to know what the coronavirus really is, or that they all claim, conversely, what 5G is all about. To me, that I can make no other conclusion other than that means that none of those are accurate. And that all of them are part of this engineered psychological manipulation echo chamber operation. And, that's what makes me really unpopular with conspiracy theorists. They don't like being told or reminded or questioned. They love to spew at others what cognitive dissonance is and accuse you of experiencing it. But bring to them a question about the validity of their own fucking sources, and they go into a crazy spiral of cognitive dissonance, mental gymnastics, and self-rationalization. I can't see any other way of explaining this phenomena other than the conspiracy theory community, no matter how well-intentioned it might have been in its outset, no matter how real it might have been in its inception, just like religions, right? Like, I have a very weirdly nuanced position on organized religion. People either want to topple all the churches because they think every single scrap in their books are totally, totally fake, or they want you to take every word in the book as literally true. Those are two extremes. Whenever you have two extremes that are that extreme, both are wrong, because something in the middle is most likely to be true. That's just the way the world actually works. Disagree with me? Great. Come at me with evidence that it isn't that way that it works. I think it is. That's what my perceptions, free of ideological constructs, has led me to conclude. So the only thing I can say about the community now, the conspiracy theory community, is that despite whatever its origins may or may not have been, it is now infiltrated and hijacked and being used for the purposes of pumping out content that is riddled with neuro-linguistic programming, mental conditioning, psychological manipulation. And so I encourage you, my friends, to go to your friends who are peddling these conspiracy theories and ask them to set aside their attachment to the one that they think is true with an absolute T, and encourage them to look at all of the competing conspiracy theories as a cluster, like to step back and with a clear mind and clear heart and clear ego, right? Because you're not supposed to kill your ego. You're not supposed to get rid of it. You're not supposed to chop it off. You're supposed to heal it and reintegrate it. To take those steps and then really take a fresh, clean, unbiased look at your favorite cluster of conspiracy theories that all cluster around one subject. Doesn't matter which. Just look at them as a whole, as a pattern. And you will notice, I hope, although I recognize I could be wrong, but I think anyone who really truly sets down their preconceived notions, they will see that us versus them, neuro-linguistic programming, that ideological mental conditioning is embedded in each and every single conspiracy theory. And if each and every single one of them shares that ingredient, then something else is going on, and they are not trying to speak truth to power. And they, I mean the theories. Ask your conspiracy theory friends the following questions. Have you ever considered the idea that conspiracy theories that you were following might be pre-selected or predefined or pre-engineered theories that, quote, they, the New World Order or whoever it is, want you to follow and attach your blind faith to? Has it never occurred to you that they might do that in order to distract you from whatever they, the evil bad guys that you're trying to expose, are actually up to? Ask your most hardcore conspiracy theory believer if it is truly, genuinely, never, ever fucking occurred to them that the conspiracy theory they love the most might itself be a vehicle and a source for mental indoctrination and psychological manipulation? Because it should have, given how much they are accusing everything else of being a conveyor of that kind of content. If it is silly and obvious to everyone in the conspiracy theory community that all organized religions claim to have the only absolute truth and therefore obviously reveal themselves to not have that absolute truth, then how can they not see it in their own conspiracy theories? The times that I have asked that of people on the social medias, they've come back with categorically, categorically, I'm overusing that word today. They have come back with responses that appear to me to be nothing more than cognitive dissonance, mental gymnastics, and self-rationalization. Ask the questions, friends. Plant the seeds. Don't argue with them. Just ask the questions. Don't accuse them. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, my friends. I am asking you to consider these questions and then encouraging you to ask these questions forward to others who might benefit from considering them. All right, friends. As always, thank you for tuning in. I am your humble host, and I will always, always recognize that I could be wrong about everything. But I will always, always, always speak with confidence and authenticity to you, dear friends, about that which I think is true.
And that is the latest madness from behind the orange wall. Thank you for listening to GMT, a special segment of the Almost Daily Zencast. Stay woke, Trumptopia. Stay woke.